Hey everybody, it's Ron Johnson, and this is the Ron Johnson Show on Locked On Sports Minnesota. I got a alert. NFL schedule release? The Vikings are playing who? When? Oh, let me call my guy Gabe Henderson from the Vikings. He's going to join us on the Hang on Ron Johnson segment. We also got the Daily 3. There's some stuff in the WNBA happening that a lot of these old vets don't want to see happen. We'll talk about that and much more coming up next on the Ron Johnson Show.
Locked On Sports Minnesota Podcasts. It's endless Minnesota Vikings talk with the diverse voices of your local experts. Now the Ron Johnson Show. On the field, in the broadcast booth, Ron Johnson is Minnesota sports. He's played with them, hung out with them, and grown up with all the big names in Minnesota sports. They're hanging out with Ron Johnson. It's the Ron Johnson Show on the Locked On Sports Minnesota podcast. And it starts now.
Hey, good people, it's Ron Johnson, and this is the Ron Johnson Show on Locked On Sports Minnesota, a partner of KARE 11 and Tegna NBC, and I'm super excited. We got Gabe Henderson joining us today on the Hang on Ron Johnson segment. He's the Vikings insider, all do-it-all guy for Vikings Entertainment Network, so we got to talk to him about the Vikings schedule release, more so of because he travels with the team. So what games is he looking forward to, and what months is he hoping they hit in? I know you Vikings fans as well. Let us know on Twitter or Instagram. What games are you excited to go to, and what can't you wait to buy a ticket for when you find out when they play? But again, I'm Ron Johnson. This is the Ron Johnson Show on Locked On Sports Minnesota. My producer, Sam Ekstrom, is going to join us in a minute. But I want everybody to know today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment right now. New customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. And before I was giving you guys like Timberwolves stuff, I have nothing. I have nothing for that. But that's $150 in bonus bets. That's $150 with any winning $5 bet. I'm not going to say pick the Nuggets. I'm sorry, but visit FanDuel.com/locked on to get started. Well, like I said, we got Gabe Henderson joining us in the Hang on Ron Johnson segment. Well, as Sam Ekstrom joins us, the Wolves, Sam, the Wolves, and we're going to talk to Gabe about that too, because he was at the game.
Oh, nice.
The Wolves had the entire world captivated. They were excited. We were bringing out brooms for the Nuggets. How stupid do we look now? Like everybody on the national media scene was kind of like hoping that Jamal Murray didn't get suspended, which he should have been. He threw a heat pack on the floor that almost could have hurt a player. You threw two things at a referee, and you just get a $100,000 fine. That's like a thump to a little kid that has blown up their parents' house. Like that's what that feels like. Like you thump a kid that doesn't listen. You thump a kid that maybe eats the candy that they weren't supposed to eat, or they didn't go to bed when they're supposed to go to bed. Boom, go to bed. Stop. But you don't thump a kid that blew up your house. Like that kid needs to probably get help, maybe go to jail. Like there's a lot of things you can do. And so Jamal Murray, to me, that felt a little bit like, well, it's the playoffs. Because somebody else asked this question. They were like, if it wasn't the playoffs, would he have gotten suspended? And everybody agreed, except for like one or two people. But a lot of the broadcasts that were bringing this up said probably. If you think about what guys have been suspended for before, they said he probably gets suspended. If that was a fan, they're ejected out of the stadium and they don't get to come back for the rest of this. They're probably banned. They could lifetime ban a fan for doing something like that, or at least a 1-year ban. Glue gal, tackle Glenn Taylor guy. Like there's so much that you could say. What was it? The other people, they tried to chain themselves to the basketball goal. Like all that is considered disruptive and in the way. Now there was a player for his team that tried to help him throw, because he's like, oh wait, there's a heat bag. This came from our bench. Like this is not a fan. Mm-hmm. If it was a bottle or something, maybe he would have been like, oh man, they out here throwing beer bottles and all that. No, it was a heat pack, and I was just upset. So I did watch the game. I was excited to see Anthony Edwards just absolutely dominate, but I'm kind of like, if I had a milk carton, Sam, if you had a milk carton for the Timberwolves game, who would you think deserves to be on it from last night?
So I think you might think I'm going to say Cat, but the problem is that I saw too much of Cat.
Okay.
Right? Like a milk carton is reserved for somebody that disappeared. I saw way too much of Cat. I saw more Cat than I wanted to see. I think Jaden, to some extent, they needed more from.
Oh,
How about the bench? Can the bench be on the milk carton? Slow-mo? What are you doing? Nikhil, what are you doing? Nas was good. I don't want to rip Nas, but the role players are on the milk carton. They did not show up. I saw too much Cat. He needed like a Valium. He needed to chill out. The bench was non-existent. That's my milk carton. How about you?
Oh, I like that. You know what? You changed my mind. I'm gonna call it temper tantrum Cat because he was doing some weird stuff on the floor. Who was in foul trouble early? Was that him or was that Jaden McDaniels?
Jaden a little bit. I don't know if there was any serious foul trouble.
Like towards the end, I think Jaden had 5, right? Is that what it was?
Yeah, or Rudy got his 5th late. Okay. But I don't think anybody had to, like, if you look at the minutes, nobody really had to miss significant time in the game because of fouls.
Because when you think about like that, the whole Jaden McDaniels, some of the fouling, the Cat, some of the just the ill-advised shots, the dumb like, and Rudy, like, at what point do you feel like you need to attack off the dribble? Like, just get rid of the ball. If you don't have a move right away in the post, get rid of it. And it was way too much weird stuff going on. It just, the vibe felt off. Early on, they had the energy of the crowd. They had it rocking. And it just didn't work out the way we thought it was going to work out. Like, I really thought they were going to get this done. I really thought they were going to put their stamp on this and go up 3-1 with 2 chances to close it out, because they could have closed it out in Denver. And then if they didn't win that, now it's still 3-2 and they can come home and close it out, which that's a lot of stress for Denver to feel like every game now is an elimination game. Now it's 0-0. Home court advantage is back to the Nuggets. They can go home now. They can play their game, relax. They can go up 3-2 and they can make the Minnesota Timberwolves play extremely tight. They can make them play extremely, like, force the game. They can force them out of their normalcy, like their normal play. And it was very frustrating, Sam, to be honest. Like, I do understand now what you're saying. Like, I saw too much Cat. Like, it just, karl-Anthony Towns, and I've tweeted this before, no disrespect, I think he's a great basketball player, but he makes some of the dumbest decisions in game for a superstar. Like, it's almost like he wants, and you know what? And that probably makes sense now. It's almost like he doesn't like playing backseat driver to Anthony Edwards. Anthony Edwards got 44 and it was masterful. Like that double clutch dunk, he went through the lane and just like, he didn't have to hang on the rim. It was more like a Michael Jordan toss in, just really boom, boom, quick. And it was so quick and smooth. Kenny Smith was like, whoa. Can we get that in slow-mo? Because you did not expect him to dunk the ball like that. Like, it just looked like it was going to be like maybe a hard layup. And he's like, no, screw that. You're not blocking this. And he dunks it. 44 points. The man is doing everything he possibly can. He, like, his comment to me today, actually probably was yesterday. I'm just seeing it today because I didn't watch the pressure. I kind of got annoyed. And I had to finish celebrating Mother's Day. But when you look at his comment, he said, and I don't know if you saw this, and it was a Freudian slip. They asked him about the Jamal Murray back and forth at the end of the game. And he said, man, we love this. I love this. You know, like, he changed it. And so that's what I'm wondering too. Is he the only one willing to write checks? Because everybody else is like, man, we might not be able to cash these checks, man. We can't be out here talking trash. Like, he's like, man, I love this. I love you to feel like you got, like, and again, not saying he's doing this on purpose, because you remember Michael Jordan said that. Talk to me, talk dirty to me, but do it when it's even. Don't do it when you got the advantage. Where was you at in game 2? Where was you at in game 1? Throwing towels, no. Okay, you want to talk crazy now? Talk crazy to me when it's all square. Talk crazy to me when I'm kicking your butt. And that's what I like about Anthony Edwards. He's willing to write these checks. And if he doesn't cash me, he's like, look, man, I went for 50. I don't know what they're doing over there. But there's another question I have for you, Sam. And Gabe's a hooper, so I'm going to make sure I ask him this one too. Mm-hmm. And it's real reactionary. But I had this thought as I'm watching the game. Would you trade Aaron Gordon for karl-Anthony Towns if you're the Timberwolves?
Different players.
But they both play the 5. Oh, sorry, the 4. They both kind of play that 4 role. Would you straight up trade? And honestly, the Timberwolves are giving up more with Cat than they would be getting Aaron Gordon. But if you're the Timberwolves, if you can give up Cat and get Aaron Gordon and maybe another piece, KCP, or like a draft pick, would you do it?
Yeah, good. It's a good thought exercise. On this particular Wolves team, I would not, because you've already got Rudy, who's not an offensive threat, and you've got Jaden, who's not really a big offensive threat, like once in a blue moon, and Conley picks his spots. But like the Wolves need a couple volume scorers. They have Ant and they have Cat, right? And they have Nas. And Aaron Gordon, despite what he did last night, he's more of an energy guy. He's a defense guy. The 3-point shooting we've seen the last couple of games is not really who he is. So I wouldn't make that exchange. It's a good question. I don't think that's what this Wolves team needs. They need Cat scoring. They just don't need they need the Cat that lets the game come to him, not the Cat that tries to be a hero. Hero ball Cat is the worst Cat, and unfortunately that's who showed up. I think he was trying a little too hard on Mother's Day. He's lost his mom. I think he was pretty fired up for the game. He was emotional, and that unfortunately didn't work to his advantage.
Well, let's get the hooper of the day, Gabe Henderson, who's been known to get into a couple fights himself. He's an energy guy on the court. Vikings Entertainment Network guy, attended the Timberwolves game. So we got to talk basketball. He also, I don't know if this is the first Mother's Day or the second, but I know his wife celebrated Mother's Day. So this is maybe his first or second one with his wife. But we'll do all that and much more coming up next on the Ron Johnson Show. But we have a word from our sponsors.
We're presented today by FanDuel, winner take all time in the NBA and NHL. And FanDuel is giving you a shot to bring home a big win of your own. That's right. If you're a new customer, get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. Could it be the Wolves? They are, +4 at FanDuel right now, +144 on the money line. Over under 205.5. That game tomorrow night in Denver, where the Wolves are undefeated in the series. There's a bright spot here in Game 5. That's all available at FanDuel. It's every line, every league. It's the prop bets. It's the spreads, the money lines, the future bets, all available. FanDuel.com/lockedon. Get that free $150 with a winning $5 bet. Make every playoff shot count. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook.
Well, now it's time for the Hanging Around Johnson segment. I got my guy, Gabe Henderson. Gabe, honestly, like when people come into town into Minnesota, you just never know what you're going to get. And so when Gabe first joined, I saw he was swaggy. He had the suit. He had the J's. I had seen him before, actually, when the Washington Commanders had traveled to town, when Adrian Peterson, I think, came here, and they put him on the Jumbotron. And then Gabe ends up getting hired by the Minnesota Vikings. We go through like a COVID weird year, so don't really get to know him. And then he starts hooping with us kind of after like the COVID clearance to hoop. And I'm like, man, this dude's cool. Then we golfed. Then the family start hanging out. And then now, Gabe's like a brother now. And so and he's a receiver. So most receivers everybody knows can hoop. We know from the argument. I'll ask Gabe about that one too, because the whole debate of football players in the NBA or basketball players in the NFL. And I got Gabe Henderson joining me on the Ron Johnson Show. Gabe, appreciate you joining me, bro. First, I got to do that to you, man. Austin Rivers, former Timberwolf, former everything. He jumps out there. Ryan Clark threw out this long message about like, you gotta create a callus to be that tough, and that basketball players aren't tough. They created flopping rules because y'all so soft. Blah blah. We know Allen Iverson probably could have played quarterback in the NFL. We don't know how good he would have done. Like he'd probably been Josh Jobs-ish, probably. Could run around, could make some throws. You think about what's his name, Matt Barnes, because they just talked about Randy Moss just talked about his highlight tape of Matt Barnes. Matt Barnes was a football player, and Deion Sanders did too. Sorry, that's what it was. Deion Sanders brought it up. 6'7" receiver, probably 6'6" with his shoes off, because we know basketball players lie about their height. So 6'6", 6'7", Plaxico Burress type receiver, but skinny, slim. We'll get that. Like Ryan Clark said, I would have took his stomach off. Like very, very descriptive. He was like, man, and if you piss me off and we in practice, I'm coming back around. Every time you up, I'm up. We gonna hit. And that's the thing, man. People don't realize that in football. You remember those days? That really, it really be that way. Like I remember blocking drills where there would be DBs that would piss me off in practice, and we get to like we call it the gopher hole, where you had to like line up and basically the Oklahoma drill, but it was head on head blocking, and they had a running back behind me. I was trying to pancake put you in the dirt. So my first question to you, man, is do you agree with Austin Rivers, or what is your side of this?
I mean, Ron, we all know the sport of football has made the most basketball players ever. Like once those basketball players get that first piece of contact while they're playing football, they're like, you know what, I'm good with doing some layups and taking a hard foul and falling off the floor. I don't agree with Austin Rivers. However, I do believe there are some players in the NBA that could play in the NFL. Jalen Suggs is one. Anthony Edwards is two.
True.
Desmond Bane is a guy I think could play in the NFL. Grant Williams from the Hornets is a guy I think could play in the NFL.
True.
But Matt Barnes at 6'7", that skinny, like, yeah, you could, moss and, out jump everybody, but you still got to come down on your feet.
Right.
When you come down on your feet, like it's fair game. And that's where I believe Ryan Clark was saying, I take your stomach off. Like, that is very descriptive, but I get what he's saying. So I do believe football players will be better suited in the NBA versus, the other way around. But still, it's that competitive bunch. And until we see them out on the field, that's the thing. It's like at this point, for all those basketball players that say they can play in the NFL, it's just like, all right, we'll give you, like, nobody wants to play the third preseason game in the NFL anyway. So it's like, look, we're going to let you try out for, 2 weeks. And then the third preseason game, we're going to make it like a celebrity game, but it's going to be tackle with some of the third stringers in the NFL versus NBA starters that think they can play. And then from there, we'll see how good they really think they are. So, it's an interesting take. It got a lot of people going, but I don't agree with it.
Yeah, so, like, again, I get where Austin Rivers is going. He was trying to say, like, basketball, you have to be super skilled and blah, blah. Here's the thing. Football, you got to be able to take a hit. So the fact that you don't think, and I get the height thing because
every play too.
Because like Myles Garrett, he can hoop, but at his size, he can't move as quick as he needs to. DK Metcalf can hoop, but he moves terribly. I watched his little highlight. He's trash. He can dunk, but he plays like, but then like Justin Jefferson, Stephon Diggs, Cooper DeJean, like I don't know if you saw Cooper DeJean's highlights recently. Mm-hmm. Oh, my man, my boy from Michigan State went to Florida State, now with the Buffalo Bills, making all the headlines, a receiver. Keenan, what's his name? Oh, shoot.
Keenan Allen?
No. Well, Keenan Allen can hoop. No, the rookie.
Keon Cole.
Coleman.
Keon Coleman.
He was the guy that, like, at first, if he had stayed at Michigan State, he's easily third, fourth round pick, because all my boys from Detroit hate him. Like they said he was like, and he was just, now you see why though. Like he's real lackadaisical. He's real like he fits in with Florida, because Florida, I'm not gonna say Florida's dumb, but Florida guys are kind of like, oh, whatever, man, football, whereas like Michigan State was more like you had like Michigan, Ohio, Pennsylvania, it's just a different type of football. And I think Keon Coleman didn't really mesh well with that staff of Mel Tucker. Mm-hmm. So he never got to do his thing. Goes to Florida State and absolutely balls out. And everybody's like, where the hell was this at when you was at Michigan State? But even his highlights hooping are nasty. So at 6'4", I could see him being able to play against like a DeJounte Murray or a Trey, what's his name? Trae Young or Steph Curry. Same with Cooper DeJean, like being able to go with these guards. Not to say they're going to be as shifty and be able to absolutely stop them. Like they're not stopping Anthony Edwards. Nobody is though. But could they be on the court and get a pass and knock down a shot, give you a couple dribbles, make a pass, set a pick and roll? Yes. But can you go out there and catch a slant and actually complete it after a linebacker's coming or a safety? No. And so I get Ryan Clark. I get where Austin Rivers was going. If we were really to sit down and have a huge round table, which is probably going to happen this summer, LeBron's going to do it, or somebody's going to sit down and have a round table about this. There's no way. There's no way. There's no way. And I know Ryan Clark, the reason he did it, because he's trying to get Austin Rivers on the pivot now. We know that's going to happen. He's going to sit down with him and talk about his daddy, Doc Rivers, his sister, Callie Rivers, which we know her whole story with Paul George and daddy getting rid of Paul George. And then, it's a lot of drama out there in that Rivers family. And Austin Rivers is the newest addition to the drama with this debate. And it was great. But You were at the Nuggets game, flipping scripts,
Yep.
switch it up. You went to the Nuggets Timberwolves game, man. How was that atmosphere?
It was crazy. It was crazy. Like I've only been to one other playoff basketball game like ever in my life, and that was the Wizards Celtics 2016 game 6 in Washington when John Wall hit the game-winning 3. And just walking into, just like feeling that energy from when the Wizards won that game, and then walking into yesterday's game and how crazy the pregame was. Like, it was wild. I was sitting in a booth, and literally next door to me, to my left, was Jokic, the Jokic family. So it's like all the Jokic brothers, security guards. When I say no one in that booth made a single sound, and no one moved a single inch. When I say, like, we've seen his brothers, they're like 6'7",
right,
300 pounds, they're like bodyguards. Like, they were waiting for Anthony Edwards or Karl-Anthony Towns to, like, hard foul their brother Jokic. Like, they were. I feel like they would have jumped over the stanchions and like made their way onto the court, because like that's how serious that booth was when they were watching the game. But the energy was there. I just don't think the Wolves had enough, right? Like, you needed a little bit more from Cat. And I know Sam just said that earlier. Like, if Ant's going to go off, like, he needs a Robin to be able to back him up. He needs somebody that's going to be able to take some of the pressure off of him. Like, Ant can go out and give him 40 a night, but like, he needs somebody else to give him 20, 25. And
right,
nobody was able to do that. Just from watching the flow of the game, it seemed like the Wolves were better off when Gobert was on the bench. Like, I know Gobert, four-time defensive player of the year and everything, but he just slowed down the pace. Like, he's a liability on offense. And it's looking like the Nuggets kind of figured out how to expose that. And hopefully this Timberwolves team can, kind of negate that, because it's not looking too good right now. And to your point, I don't know why people were saying they were going to sweep the defending champs. Like, the Nuggets are cold. DeJounte Murray, Jamal Murray, like, he is a walking bucket. And seeing that in person, and then seeing Anthony Edwards just do what he does best, it was a really cool experience to be a part of.
Yeah, and so I agree with that. Like, I think I said they would win in 5. Not gonna happen now. But I thought, like, early on after the first, because we did like a overreaction segment, and after the first game, because we have a basketball party on Wednesdays with Reggie Wilson, myself, Sam Ekstrom, and a couple other people. And I said that. I was like, I think they can get this in 5. Mm-hmm. And now I'm like, they may not get this in 7. Like, it is like the Jamal Murray has woken up. Mm-hmm. Jokic has gotten, like, his offensive fouling, his way he throws his arm out and all that, like, it does not get called. So he's going to keep doing it until the refs call it. The coaches have to keep whining about it. But this is a team that they are the defending champs. They do have the league MVP. Marketability. Anthony Edwards is extremely marketable. Like, when I look at his movie, I don't know if you've ever seen that movie he was in, but he's extremely marketable. The Timberwolves as a whole, I think the NBA is nervous. Can they fill the shoes of the Nuggets? Because what the Nuggets gave you was still small market, but you get Jokic, you get the MVP, you get Jamal Murray, you get, the fans of Denver. I don't think they realize the Minnesota fans are just as, like, excited about this and will be just as, like, amped to want to be out there. To maybe Kevin Garnett comes back, but I know there's people who assume the fix is in because, the refs this, the refs that. At the end of the day, this is a team that Anthony Edwards has to play the way he's playing, which he is. But you're right, Cat needs to be his Batman. Whether it's, and there's the thing. In other games, it's been Naz Reid. If it's Naz Reid that gives you 25, or Nah gives you 25, or Jaden McDaniels gives you 20 or 22, somebody has to get into the 20s. You can't have a bunch of 11s, 12s, 13s, and 16s. It doesn't work. That's why you look at Jokic. Aaron Gordon was his secondary guy. He gave him 27. He got him over. If Aaron Gordon is held to 16 points, the Nuggets lose. Yeah. Because Jamal Murray wasn't doing it. And Aaron Gordon just was the odd man out that knocked down some threes. And they, like, I personally feel like KCP should have been the guy left open over Aaron Gordon. Aaron Gordon, to me, the last 2 games has been nuts. He's been, like, super energetic, getting dunks at opportunistic times. He hits the boards at a clip sometimes that you're like, how in the heck is he there? Yeah. And then even the 3, like Charles Barkley pointed this out, The stupid pass at the end of the half, like that was dumb. Why are you throwing it halfway down the court to nobody? We already saw Cat last week try to catch a ball over the show. They're not football players. They can't make that catch and do something with it.
That explains the argument. That explains the argument right there.
Exactly. Yeah, like I posted that video, and then of course I get like, I mean, it did numbers, but people were like, all the comments are, look at this Chet Holmgren, because they showed Chet Holmgren made a one-handed catch. I'm like, yeah, it's a basketball. Everybody can make a one-handed catch with a basketball. Like, he's 7 feet tall. He better be able to do that. But he like mauls somebody, turns around, dribbles, hits a jumper, Christian Laettner style. I'm like, he should be able to catch a one-hand. Like, doing this to a basketball is normal. Doing this to a football is not normal. So doing this to a basketball should be an easy catch. Cat literally just hit his arm and went. So shut up. But people were sending me all these Chet Holmgren videos, and I'm like, yeah, fine. He did what everybody can do, but can he do it with a football? But other than that, Gabe, when you think about this 2-2 right now, where do you think they end up? Do you think the Timberwolves can pull this off, or do you think there's going to be another one of those? Because you've only been here for a little bit, but you've already heard the stories of Minnesota sports fans. Do you think this might be another one of those? We could be champions this year, but we couldn't beat the Nuggets again.
Yeah, Ron, I remember coming on your show. I think it was in March, and we were talking about the playoff run and how the Wolves could have got the 1 seed, and everybody was shocked about that. And I remember saying, like, are we actually surprised that they didn't get the 1 seed? Like, I get it was a great year, but like, from me only being here 4 years, like, in the conversations that I've had with locals here and then watching the Timberwolves play, it's just like, this may be best case scenario for this team. Like, granted, I want the Wolves to win, but until proven otherwise, like, it's so hard for me to believe that they can pull this series off. Like, it was a great first 2 games. Like, they played defense very well, and the Nuggets can make baskets. But when you're defending champs, that adversity, like, you're used to that. And now I feel like the Nuggets have kind of figured out the Timberwolves, and I think the Nuggets win in 7. Personally, I do believe the Wolves will get another game. I think it might not be tonight. I think the Wolves will get game 6, and then game 7, I think the Nuggets close out. Do I want the Wolves to win? Yes. Like, I want the Wolves to go all the way, but I just don't know. I don't think they have the firepower to do so.
Wow. That's Gabe Henderson on Twitter, people, for everybody that might be mad about that one.
It's honest. It
is honest. You got to be honest about it, though. So here's another one for you, though. So lastly, when you think about Anthony Edwards and his legacy, quote unquote, because he's following in this Michael Jordan trajectory, and everybody forgets Jordan came in the league in 84, 88, 89, the Pistons back to back. So he didn't, I think. Yeah, because Jordan didn't start winning to the 90s.
Yep.
So 88, 89, because I remember that was the Pistons back to back. They absolutely destroyed Jordan in the East.
Mm-hmm.
He also got destroyed by Larry Bird. So it took him about 6 years. I think Anthony Edwards is going on like his 3rd or 4th year. Do you think that this hurts his legacy for Anthony Edwards, like being up 2-0 and losing? Or do you think this just adds to the story that we're going to see later?
Yeah, it only adds to the story. Like, I feel like he's too young to have anything kind of against him just yet. Like, the guy's 22. And that's the thing. If we put this loss, like, let's say the Timberwolves do lose, like, if we put this loss against them, I think it kind of helps his case if they don't lose. I mean, if they do lose, right? Because it's like, all right, like, we see what Anthony Edwards can be. Now we got to get him some more help, because all he's missing is that one extra person that can get them over the hump. Of course, I want him to win, but if he wins, it's just like, all right, let's run it back with this team next year. Like, they got to whatever they need to get to that point. So he's fine. Like, and yesterday was like the first time I've watched 48 minutes straight of Anthony Edwards.
Mm-hmm.
And granted, like, regular season, guys aren't really playing hard. Like, it's, they play defense, but it's not playoff basketball. But yesterday was the first time I saw him actually play a full game. And he's one of the best basketball players I've ever seen. Like, he's that good as far as just being able to take over a game, confidence, energy, athleticism. Like, when you see him out there, he's the best player on the court. And he doesn't even have to pick up the ball. It's just like how he carries himself, how he walks around, how he talks. And I think that you don't really see that in the game of basketball anymore, especially at this level. I mean, you got the KDs and the Wembys and LeBrons of the world, but this young Ant Edwards, Like he is a walking bucket. And I personally don't think if he loses this series, it'll be held against him.
Well, when you look at moving on from the Timberwolves, we got to jump into the Vikings a little bit before we get out of here and jump over to the Daily 3. That's 3 questions. It's been about 3 minutes each today. But Gabe, I got to talk to you about this because you work for the Minnesota Vikings. I mean, I love talking basketball. You know that. It's basketball season. I'm a hooper. By the way, we got to get you, me, and Carlton, and maybe 1 or 2 other guys over there to Lifetime Fitness and just put some work in. So maybe once the schedule's been released and everything else calms down, maybe you'll be able to go there for some noon lunch ball. Because I played the other day with some young African-American males. I'm talking about young guys, Gabe, like to the point where, and now even looking at myself in my videos now, I'm starting to realize the grays are like, I think it's my daughter's turning 13 and 9. Like it's getting worse. Like I'm almost full gray and starting to look like Roman Harper a little bit. And so dude on my team, nice kid too, Gabe. I'm talking about this kid is 6'6", 6'7", young, like 22, 23, nice game, like long, more like a big man, doesn't shoot threes, like knows his game, in the lane, blah, blah. Talking about, OG, I got you. OG, like, bro, who's OG? Like, I'm your age. And I'm like, dang, I'm the old guy out here now. but the fact that I'm still putting up threes, still crossing dudes over, still when it's time for game winner, get me in the post on the little guy. But yeah, Gabe, I got about 2 or 3 killers, man. I played with the other day. 2 times I've been there, I haven't lost more than 1 game. So nice. I got this young little white kid. I think he played D3, said, and these young black kids, man, legit. Like it's 3 of them. They can go 6'7". One's about my height, 6'3", and the other one's probably about 6'1", 6'2". I'm talking about all 3 of them dunking. Like all of them, except for the white boy. But the other 3,
so you basically DeAndre Jordan on the Nuggets right now.
Pretty much. Like I'm just out there. Like I'm more like Draymond Green probably in 5 years when Kevin Durant goes back to the Warriors. I'm like Draymond. I'm just getting rebounds and I'm being aggressive for no reason. But yeah, Gabe, these guys can go. So I get you over there. But jumping into football, man, I went to Vikings.com right away on Vikings. I don't know last time you went to Vikings.com. Schedule release 5/15/24 is all over the internet, Gabe. All over all the Viking socials. The first thing that pops up is London's Tottenham Hotspur Stadium in 2024, Gabe. How excited are you about to get to cross over the pond? Or is that how you say cross over the pond?
Yeah, to cross over the pond. Yeah, you said it right. You probably need a better accent, but it's all good.
Cross over the pond.
Man, that's probably the one game that I'm most excited for. Just because of the energy that was felt when we went out there in 2022 to play the New Orleans Saints. You know, we're doing some stuff to get ready for that game as far as like some behind the scenes content. And I know, I think we're going to go out there earlier this year to kind of get some things accomplished. So I'm excited about that. Not sure who the opponent is yet.
Correct.
But the fact that we have schedule release coming up, it was supposed to have, there were talks that last week was supposed to have been the initial week that schedule release was supposed to be put out. So the fact that this upcoming Wednesday is the actual date, I think it's finally an opportunity for us to figure out the rest of our lives for the rest of 2024. Like we kind of up in limbo until that schedule comes out.
Correct.
And then you start planning out your trips, your vacations afterwards. So there's so many games, but that London game in particular is the one that I've got circled. Like granted, it's a home game, and we still got 8 more road games. But to play a football game or to be a part of an organization that's, helping grow the game in another country and, seeing that real time, like that's a dream come true.
And when you look at this Vikings return to the United Kingdom, they've been there before. They went 1983. They played the St. Louis Cardinals in Wembley Stadium. They won. They also did exhibition games in Sweden, Germany, and Japan. So the Vikings have traveled well. Looks like they have a great international following. Other than London, is there another game when you think about this schedule release before we get out of here? Is there another game you're like, oh, I hope we play them in like December so I can get out of this cold? Or is there like I hope we go there in September so it's not cold?
Yeah, I'm hoping the LA trip is in December or January when we play the Rams, and I'm hoping the Titans trip. I'm hoping that's in later in the year also, and of course the Bears and the Packers. Like those are the two teams that you do not want to play in January. I believe 2022. we played both of those teams in January, and it was cold as mess out there. No, we played them December 31st, and then the following week, and it was cold as mess out there. So there's a few games like the Jaguars, like that's the state. Like at this point, like while I love, working for this team and seeing, these guys, be successful on the field, like I'm like starting to, count off some of the stadiums that I haven't been to. I've been in the league working for an NFL team for 7 years now, and I still haven't seen every stadium, but I'm getting close. So, the Jaguars and the Titans are two stadiums I've never been to. So I'm excited to see those stadiums and ultimately see what this Vikings team can be. Like a lot of people are saying, we don't know we don't know what the identity is going to be. We don't know how many games we're going to win versus lose. And I think honestly, that's a really good position to be in because expectations aren't as high as it once was. So as Michael Jordan would say, the ceiling is the roof.
And lastly, before we get out of here, man, when you look at the home opponents, and this is probably something I'm going to do in the roundtable as well, is there a home opponent, because they're going to take one of these games from the Vikings, is there a home opponent you hope the fans in Minnesota aren't robbed of because they take it over to the pond?
I mean, I hope, one, the Falcons, right? Like,
yeah, because Kirk Cousins,
Kirk Cousins coming back, and then two, the Houston Texans. Danielle Hunter.
Oh yeah, I forgot about Danielle and Stephon Diggs.
And Jonathan Grenard, Blake Cashman.
That might be the one they take from y'all, though. To be honest, I'm not gonna lie, because I'm looking at this list. I mean, maybe the Arizona Cardinals, but I don't think they want the 49ers going over there.
Yeah.
Maybe the Colts. But I could see the Texans because what you're trying to do is give them a product over there so that they can consume it and love it. The Cardinals, to me, doesn't seem like a lovable team to take across the pond. The 49ers are a team you don't want to lose because it's an earlier game for the U.S.
Yep.
I could see the Texans because sending C.J. Stroud over there, but also the Colts because Anthony Richardson. I think this is a quarterback-driven league. So it'll be interesting to see. I wonder if FanDuel will put money on that. Like, what games are going to end up overseas? Because we know people can bet on anything right now in Vegas. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. I know we're going to release some on Vikings.com on a Wednesday. I think it's 6:59 p.m. Is when it can officially, or whenever the NFL Network pulls the trigger, then everybody else just pulls the trigger and they say, all right, let's go. It's out there. We can go. So I know everybody can do it. But I'm Ron Johnson. That's Gabe Henderson. Make sure you guys tune in to Vikings.com for the schedule release, and also check out Gabe's been doing a lot of big time stuff off the field, man. So make sure you guys check him out. Follow him on all the socials. It's Gabe Henderson. Just search him on the Vikings socials as well as his own X, Instagram. He's doing a great job for Minnesota Vikings, and he's a former player. You don't get a lot of people interviewing players as a former player because he understands what's going on. But we got the Daily 3 coming up. That's 3 questions, 3 minutes each, and we'll be back after this. Well, now it's time for the Daily 3. That's 3 questions, about 3 minutes each. Take it away, Sam.
All right, Ron, there's actually some new news in this regard. My question was, predict the date when Justin Jefferson will sign his extension. Well, there was a report from Dan Graziano of ESPN basically saying the Vikings have a signing bonus policy that may delay the extension until after July 31st. So we got some new information on that. So do you have a prediction with that in mind when Justin Jefferson will get this deal done?
Well, first, what's the policy? Do we know or no?
I'll read you the tweet. Now, this isn't from Graziano. This is from Purple Persuasion, who's citing Graziano's report. There's a number of reasons to think an extension might take until closer to the season. The Vikings have a policy with their signing bonuses where July 31st is kind of a key date, and they might want to wait until after that. So I would preach patience on the Justin Jefferson deal.
Right. So that's speculation on that policy. I don't believe that's a thing. That's just somebody throwing it out there. But I will say the July 31st date probably has something to do with the verbiage within the contract. And so maybe somebody leaked something saying, well, we don't want to do it until after this, or we want to make sure we got these guys signed, because they do have to sign their rookies. They have to get ready for training camp, so on and so forth. So there's a lot that has to go into this. Also, we know there's other receivers that are waiting for Justin Jefferson to sign as well, so that they can figure out where they fall, or vice versa. Maybe Justin wants them to sign first, and then he can say, well, I know I'm better than him, and him. So 37 is my number. We don't know what that looks like. We don't know what that's going to be. But if I had to predict, Training camp. Do we have a date start of training camp yet? Is it July 24th, or have we been given it 24th, 25th, 26th?
I have not seen it, but I think you're probably spot on. It's probably one of those days. Yeah.
Yeah. Usually it's like that last week of July, because technically July ends the 29th, 30th, 31st, which is the following week, and then August 1st, 2nd. It's not going to be that late because of preseason. So I'm guessing July 24th will be like veterans report or rookies report, and then veterans show up on the 25th. If that's the case, I would say Justin Jefferson probably doesn't sign until like 2 to 3 weeks into training camp. My guess is going to be like August 21st or August 14th, somewhere in there. Because he's not going to play in the preseason. So I think it's going to be a TJ Hawkinson situation with Justin Jefferson.
I'm just bummed because why wouldn't you want to get this thing done before mandatory minicamp, before training camp, so that he can play without having to stress about this? Because I guess I assume there's a holdout until he gets signed. Maybe I'm wrong, but I would assume he wants to get as many reps with Sam Darnold and J.J. McCarthy as possible. There's a new quarterback we're dealing with. Would like to get him in the building earlier. Maybe he shows up. Maybe he practices without a deal. I would be surprised, but maybe that happens.
Yeah, maybe. He's got a guaranteed $19 million, but I still know he wants that 100. So yeah, going out there and playing on and getting hurt potentially with 19 million, or wait, knowing somebody's going to give me 100 plus. I hate to say it. He's probably going to wait. But what's the question number 2?
The Mavs have taken a 2-1 series lead on the number 1 seed Thunder in the NBA playoffs. Meanwhile, the Knicks are pulling a Timberwolves. Their 2-0 lead evaporated. Indiana tied their series up 2-2. Which higher seed is more vulnerable right now, the Thunder or the Knicks?
Thunder. This is not even. So 2-1. The Mavs win another one is 3-1, and now you put a lot of pressure on a young team that hasn't been there before. They don't have a veteran presence to really like say this is how we get it done. So I think the Knicks have some vets. The Pacers are a good team, but the Knicks have some vets. That's where the Thunder, and that's always been the knock on them, like being led by Shea. The thing about Anthony Edwards is he has Mike Conley, and I think that's what we're forgetting is the Thunder. Personally, I don't really see a name where you're like, oh, that guy's going to get this ship headed in the right direction. They could potentially fall to a really good Mavs team. And that's what we don't realize is Luka is playing on one leg. Kyrie, they both haven't been around the whole season. Now that they're together, they're just really good. So I think the Thunder are in more trouble.
Yeah, I guess I would agree with you there too, because like you said, the Mavs have this key game 4 where can they do what the Wolves couldn't? Can they win a game at home to take a 3-1 series lead? We'll find out. But they've got one of the best players in the world, Luka Doncic. That's for sure. Last question. Caitlin Clark debuts in the WNBA. I think that's tomorrow. Do you expect, Ron, that Caitlin Clark is an instant star in the WNBA?
Yeah, I do. I know a lot of veterans, they hated on her and, she's going to be for a rude awakening. There's certain things that just transcend across all sport. And that's being a dominant force and a shooter. She's a shooter. She's not a big man where she's going to like get into the league and get bumped around. She's not a little short girl where they can use length and size to like distract her. She's 6 feet tall and she shoots the 3. So just like Paige Beckers, she's going to come in and she's going to have, like Paige came into college and she, 18-year-old out of high school came in and really did her thing. I'm going to say Caitlin Clark comes in as a young rookie and she does her thing because she's about spacing. She doesn't need to go into the lane. And she showed in the preseason, she's still quicker than a lot of these other girls that are her size. So I think she's going to be a star.
I don't know much about the Fever's roster, but I assume it wasn't a very good roster since they won the lottery. So it seems like there'd be an opportunity for her to be their best player right away. And I noticed they're not favored in the game. They're underdogs in their opener. So presumably Caitlin Clark will score a lot. And maybe it's a Wemby situation. Maybe they're not very good, but she herself is very good because I don't know if she'll be able to win games by herself in the WNBA.
Right. The one thing about the Fever that they lacked is what they're getting in her as a scorer. But they have Aaliyah Boston, who is the gal from South Carolina. She won a national championship with Dawn Staley. You also have Lexi Hall, the guard who's another 6-foot guard out of Stanford. So if you don't, I don't know if people remember Lexi Hall during her time in the tourney, quote unquote. She's coming off the bench. But they do have some pieces to this puzzle that I think, think about all the WNBA teams, like, when the Lynx finally started adding pieces that worked. I mean, like any basketball team, when the Cavs added LeBron, you only need 1 or 2 pieces to be added to actually consider yourself good. Anthony Edwards, and then you added Rudy Gobert with Karl-Anthony Towns. There you go. Mike Conley was just another value trade that actually worked out. So I think Caitlin Clark with this team, her and Aaliyah Boston. Aaliyah Boston stands at 6'5", 220 pounds. That now can be the 1-2 punch that she had in college. It's going to be the same thing. You set the pick. If they double me, I'm dumping it down. If they're scared of you, you kick it back out. I'm going to absolutely knock down the 3. And that's what we saw in the preseason. She was knocking down the 3. The goal's still the same size it was in college. The ball's the same size, just looks different. Caitlin Clark's going to be a star.
Yeah, I can't wait to see it. And Lynx, by the way, starting off Tuesday night as well. I think that's a late game. We'll see how their first round pick plays.
Well, that'll do it for today on the Ron Johnson Show. I want you guys to have a great week and looking forward, because tomorrow the schedule release is coming out. So make sure you guys tune in for that. Everybody's going to have it. Locked On Sports, we for sure will talk about it on Thursday on the football party. Friday on the round table. We're going to talk about it. So make sure you guys stick around for that. And hey, hopefully we got another week or two of some Timberwolves talk, because it's going to get really sad if we're just all football. We got Twins. We know that. We're going to talk a little Lynx, Caitlin Clark probably. But it's going to be sad without basketball. So hopefully the Timberwolves can get this thing turned around. But again, I'm Ron Johnson, that's Sam Ekstrom. I want to thank you guys for joining us. And make sure you subscribe on YouTube. Just need an email address. Hit that subscribe button. You can get all the updates of all of our shows. Thank you. Have a great one.